Shalom, dear intercessors and watchmen on the walls of Jerusalem. Thank you for praying with us for a change in the government in Sweden that has become the first nation in Europe to, within the EU, to accept a Palestinian state. A very, very tragic decision, and we're praying for a reversal of this. We believe that God has heard our prayers. However, the battle is not over. So we appreciate if you will continue until we have a new government in Sweden that will support Israel instead of condemning Israel. This week we also want to remind you to pray specifically regarding the spiritual battle that is now taking place in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. And this is something that we will come back to in coming weeks and focus our prayers on. It's very interesting to see how the battle now is increasing in Jerusalem, but specifically around the Temple Mount. God put this on our hearts in the beginning of this year, and since that time we have seen the confrontation escalate tremendously around the Temple Mount. And we know from Luke chapter 21, verse 24, it says that Jerusalem will be trodden down, trampled down by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Now, many thought that happened in 1967 when when Israel reunited Jerusalem under Jewish sovereignty. And we heard the chief rabbi of the Israeli army, Shlomo Goren, announce over the radio, the Temple Mount is in our hands. The Temple Mount is in our hands. Well, tragically, what happened was that the general of the Israeli army, Moshe Dayan, the following day took the keys to the Temple Mount and handed them over to the Islamic authority from Jordan controlling that place. In essence, they relinquished Jewish rights to the most holy place for the Jewish people in all the world, and which is the key to the return of the Messiah. Islam is very much aware of this, and that's why this spiritual battle, or this even physical battle now, is beginning to increase around the Temple Mount. In the last verses of Matthew 23, verses 37 to 39, we know that our Master tells us there that the world will not see him again, and specifically the Jewish people will not see him again until the leaders of the Jewish people in Jerusalem will say, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord," thereby welcoming Yeshua as their Messiah. And this is a quote from Psalm 118, and the rest of the verse says there that blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. We bless you from the house of the Lord. So it is actually from the Temple Mount that the Jewish people will welcome the Messiah back. That is the key place in Jerusalem. That is Mount Zion. Many Christians are confused on this idea, thinking that Mount Zion is outside of the Zion Gate, that hill that is outside of the Zion Gate in the old city of Jerusalem. But that is not the biblical Mount Zion. The biblical Mount Zion is on the Temple Mount. That is God's holy hill, Mount Zion. In Psalm 48 it says, "Great is the Lord and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountain of his holiness." Beautiful for situation is Mount Zion in the north, the city of the great king. So Zion is the northern part of Jerusalem, and in the times of King David and King Solomon and the Davidic kings, the Temple Mount was the most northern part of Jerusalem. So that is Mount Zion. That's where Mount Zion is. And we what is the Zionist movement without Mount Zion? It is like some people said in a demonstration last week that did we mourn when we were in the diaspora far from our own land? Did we mourn to come back to the pubs of Tel Aviv? Did we mourn to get back to the promenade in Haifa? No, we mourned for 2,000 years to get back to Mount Zion, to the Temple Mount. And there is an increasing movement now among the Jewish people that is escalating at this time. They are yearning for Zion, to be free on Mount Zion. And at the same time, the Palestinians are objecting to Jews even coming and entering that place. So the spiritual battle is increasing on regarding the Temple Mount. And that is ironically the only place where the Jewish people are not allowed to move their lips in prayer, even though it's the most holy place for the Jewish people in all the world. And it is the very place where the Jewish people will welcome the Messiah. So Jerusalem is still under the foot of the Gentiles on the most holy place, the most important place, Mount Zion. And just like we prayed for the Jewish people to come back to the land of Israel, we must now engage in prayer for the Jewish people to be able to come back to Mount Zion, to the Temple Mount, and to say welcome to the Messiah. God bless you. Thank you for standing with us in prayer as watchmen on the walls of Jerusalem. Shalom.